Time for another edition of Out and About with Jamie Grout. We'll be talking with Ethan Naselroad, who, along with his wife Lisa, run the Newton Airport. They have Johnson Aviation Incorporated, who coincidentally are the newest sponsor here on Out and About with Jamie Grout, and it's a great facility out there. I hadn't been out there in a long time, and the building is fantastic, and we'll talk about that in our conversation too. But always remember at Johnson Aviation that if you are looking to take flying lessons, hey, check them out. It's a great thing to do. I know some people who have gotten their pilot's license and they absolutely love it. And also they have charter flights available too at Johnson Aviation and the Newton Airport. So you might want to check those out if you're going to try to get from point A to point B. And I was looking at their Facebook page, and they have some awesome pictures from Denver and the Northwest Coast on there if you want to check them out at the Johnson Aviation Facebook page. But get a hold of Ethan or Lisa at Johnson Aviation and find out about those flying lessons and charter flights. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about is how they handle all the private jets that come in on race weekends for NASCAR and for INDY Car. And it's just fascinating how they do that. Other sponsors include Newton Des Moines East KOA, and we'll be talking with Dina about their handyman services that they have, and she'll tell us about that in just a few minutes. And also, don't forget Clement Mackey Insurance in downtown Newton, Clement Mackey, where your insurance policy comes with an agent. They are an independent insurance agency, which means that they can find the lowest rate for you. And they did for Little Red and myself, and they will for you also. One of our newest sponsors, too, is Tony Pesca, Iowa Realty, and she also has a personal connection to Little Red and myself because she sold us our house. And we looked and looked and looked for the right place and went to many different places, and she found the right house for us, and she'll find the right house for you. Tony's a great person, lifelong resident of Newton. She's won the Community Service Award because she's been so involved in many, many projects around the Newton area. So get a hold of Tony Pesca. Her number is 641-417-8484. My co-host today and interview victim is Ethan Naselroad, who is the president of Johnson Aviation Incorporated and also Midland Aircraft Sales and Service. And we're doing this from the conference room of the airport. And let me tell you, it's been a while since I've been out here. And Ethan, these facilities are great. This building is fantastic. Tell us about when it was built and what kind of accoutrements you have inside the building.
You bet. So this building was a public-private partnership built back in 2005, 2006. Maytag did a matching grant. The private sector raised about almost $800,000 for this. And what the main push behind it was, we feel this is Newton's third exit, if you will. This is the first the first opinion, the first impression people are going to get in Newton, Iowa. Mm-hmm. And so we really feel that way out here. And so for a town of 16,000, you're right, you're not going to see a facility like this necessarily.
Well, I'm amazed. You have a sleeping room for the pilots and you have showers and different things here, and it's fantastic. It's a great facility. What kind of improvements have you seen in the past few years here at the airport? I know a few years ago you extended the runway, didn't you?
No, so we didn't. We did the taxiway, which was just basically kind of a housekeeping, sort of a safety item, was to moving that. But where the old facility was, the taxiway needed to be moved, and the way we worked that is we had to move the fuel system, we had to replace that ramp space. So the FAA and wanting to change that taxiway to make it up to code, if you will, we use that as leverage to then say, okay, well, we're going to have to move our fuel pump, so we're going to need a grant for that. We're going to need a grant for ramp space, and then finally we did do the taxiway. There's no doubt what we call the air side, the runway, the instrument landing system, the length of the runway, those sorts of things, that came about in the 90s, early 2000s. For one of the big users of the airport was Maytag, of course.
Sure.
The building was supported by Maytag as well, just kind of upgrade, because we always had pretty good airside facilities. The old building was just dated, mm-hmm. and it needed replaced. And so we have a nice large heated hangar now. An excellent facility to for pilots and for people in this conference room to have meetings in that fly in. But then, when Maytag left, this was the first impression of all these new businesses that were looking at town. So I say it's our third exit. First impression for a lot of businesses that ended up joining the community, and it worked out. So the timing was as unfortunate was losing Maytag. The timing was all right with the fact we had this new facility here, and we got to showcase Newton out here.
Well, one of the things that I was impressed by, we both belong to Rotary, and you gave a program, and this was more specifically about when you have NASCAR weekends or INDY Car weekends, and the process you go through, because it's like you have your regular days. I'm sure today is just a regular, normal day at the airport. But on those weekends, it gets kind of crazy around here, doesn't it?
It does. So the way I describe it is for 10 days a year around this last year, 10 days of the 365 days, we were the busiest general aviation airport in Iowa.
Wow.
And then for the remaining 355 days a year, we're a town of 16,000 with that type of activity. Now, that activity today was actually a Gulfstream coming in and did business. You didn't see that because you missed it by about a half hour.
Oh, did I?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Or you missed one of our corporate aircraft going out early this morning. I missed that one too. He was out at like 6 a.m., so I missed that one too. But and they'll be back before or after we go home. So missed that. But yeah, on the race weekends, the traffic starts around Wednesday. Drop off pickups.
Okay.
And then it all culminates into a busy Saturday and a busy Sunday. The ramp space I showed you, the engineer's drawing had 20 airplanes on it, but yet over that course of that weekend, we'll touch 61 different airplanes.
Gee whiz.
Or 61 operations, if you will, on 54 total airplanes.
Don't they have to make reservations to get parking space?
Well, we had to do that this last year because of the space limitation. I mean, we're parking in the snow removal driveway for our snowplow. We're using the sprayer's ramp. We're using some grass parking around the T-hangers and whatnot. So last year, we came to the realization on about Friday afternoon that Sunday we were going to be out of ramp space. And so I had to put out a notice to air missions that said, if you want to be on the ramp, basically, you had to get permission. And so everybody that was already here, we told them, don't worry about it, you're here. And then everybody else coming in, we had to let them know. So this year, being proactive with NASCAR and INDY Car, we put out that same notice to air missions several months ahead of time. And so what that does is help us plan and know who's going to be on the ramp and when. It's pretty labor intensive. They get a number and whatnot, and we make contact with them. And then we kind of know so that we don't have to do a last minute, hey, we're full, you're going to have to go somewhere else. And even this last year, we had to throttle a couple airplanes, meaning we had to tell them, Sunday afternoon at that time, we have a lot of pickups going on. We're going to be busy. And you're going to have to wait till after 5 o'clock. And that's of course, if we don't have a delay of the race or something too. Sure. So that did happen again this year. So yeah, it's a big process. It's a lot of organization, but we have a great team here to do that. We've been practicing for 18 years.
And you bring in extra help or people who have helped in the past, right?
We do. We bring back some former employees that we just, are key. We don't have 9 people around here we don't have a depth of 9 in Newton. We do have extra help in Marshalltown. We brought down the office manager there, and she loves working with Lisa down here and keeping everything organized. And we brought in some former employees and whatnot that have been trained, and then we train up a few new people too. So at one time we probably have 9 people. This last race, we had somebody spend the night here. We had 11:30 p.m. arrivals. We had 1:30 a.m. arrivals.
Wow! And
so our headline line person stayed till just spent the night here basically.
So I asked this question when we were Rotary, Ethan, and it just amazes me how you get these planes in and out without having a traffic jam. You have to work closely with Des Moines Air Traffic Control, don't you?
So Des Moines is going to control all the traffic coming in. And once they're on the ground, though, we have to get them parked pretty efficiently, pretty quickly. And then a lot of times when they park, they're blocking everything. So we park them where they're going to be, but then we got to hook up to them and push them back. So we have a fair amount of investment in equipment that allows us to hook up to them and then safely move them back. So that takes key personnel that's trained on moving those large airplanes, and then also the equipment to push them back. And some of them, and that's where it comes into knowing what their schedule is. Are they just dropping off people Are they quick turning, if you will? They come in, they get fuel, they leave, or do they are they going to be here for the whole race?
So, didn't you say something about having a spreadsheet or something, and you worked with Des Moines on that
Yeah,
to get everything, make sure that all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed, that kind of thing?
So the spreadsheet that, and Lisa puts this together, she does a great job with it. You were saying Lynette does all the techie stuff for
Yeah.
Lisa's my Lynette. Yeah.
Okay.
Lisa's
all
my
right.
little red
Yeah.
that
We
way.
both have our own co-pilots.
Oh, and rightfully so.
Yes.
Because she's the one running that spreadsheet, talking to all these folks. And so we got in a situation where Des Moines Approach called me and said, hey, we didn't know about all these jets coming into Des Moines. I understand you guys have a busy weekend too. And we said, yeah, that we thought we'd let you know that. And we did. But they hadn't passed the word on. So they were wondering, can we get some information from you? What do you know is going out Sunday? So as part of that spreadsheet, we were sending that to Des Moines Approach over there, and they ended up using that so that they knew how to staff correctly. Because every one of those airplanes coming out of here would want a clearance. Des Moines issues the clearance to take off at Newton for certain types of air, not all of them, but certain types of airplanes, depending on the weather. And so they need to staff up accordingly to be able to issue, if there's 30 or 40 airplanes leaving, they need air traffic control, and that's a big workload for somebody. And they want to make sure they've got all their bases covered.
Wow.
So yeah, so they ended up using that, and we'll do that again. They really appreciated that. And we said, we'll do it again next year, and we'll let them know. So,
do all the race car drivers have their own private jets, or how does that work anyway?
A few do. A lot of them ride on the team airplanes.
Can you drop some names for us?
We not in this format.
Okay. All right.
Probably, but you can imagine. I mean, you can look at the tail number and say, oh yeah, if the tail number is not blocked, you probably know. Our goal here is no matter who's coming through, they get treated like a normal person doing business at the airport. Mm-hmm. We don't ask for autographs. We just make sure that we do our job, and that they can, and I think they appreciate that. I assume some, it'd be a thrill to ask for an autograph.
Oh, sure. Others,
it's, hey, I just need to get over to the track. I just want everybody to do their job. So that's been our policy over the years.
And the close proximity to the Iowa Speedway is nice also.
It's huge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is huge. And the Speedway first race was about 06. Mm-hmm. So, we really, the terminal, and that construction in 05 was really based around, we needed just for Newton in general. Mm-hmm. And then with the Speedway coming on, we could have never done a race in the old facility and the old ramp space. We'd have been so far behind. And the city's done a good job over the last several years of we've expanded as the races grew. Mm-hmm. And so we put in more ramp space and cleaned things up, always with the idea that someday we're going to do a cup race.
Well, there you go. And we are.
Yeah, and we are.
Okay. So let's look to the future a little bit. Do you expect that the airport will grow as needs are met, or are you satisfied with how things are at the moment?
I think that right now, I showed how we are parking in really strange spots. We're using other people's ramp space, if you will. There is a proposal to do, we have a state grant already in hand to expand the apron just a little bit more. And then that's about all the land we have to expand. So at least at that point, we can say we've done everything we can. Mm-hmm. And most of that is 90-10 type money. So for every 10 cents the city spends, they get $1 in infrastructure from the feds. So they typically, that's how that money works.
Let's talk about Johnson Aviation. It's been around for a long time.
It's our 75th year.
Yeah, Earl Johnson.
Yep.
I remember seeing his car drive around town when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Johnson Aviation, and I as I told you when I came into the building, I have not been into this building, but when I was younger, for whatever reason, I would come out to the airport a little more often, whether it was because there were fly-ins going on or friends were coming out and whatnot. But this airport has quite a history, doesn't it?
It does. So Earl Johnson, I believe, came to town around in the late 1940s, and that's when the airport was over on the north side there by Klein Tool and the county garage there. And he had purchased Smith Flying, flying service. And it became Johnson Aviation in 1949. Early 1950s, maybe late 1945, 1950, it was him and Fred Maytag that hopped in Fred's airplane, and they flew around to look for some land for a new airport. And this is where they ended up ended up choosing.
Sure.
Fred, being kind of a visionary, little inside, he had supposedly had said, "Hey, why don't we move it to the west side of town? Maybe 10 miles, 5-10 miles outside town, so maybe we can kind of get some of that Des Moines traffic too." And so ultimately they said, we'll put it close to town. And that's how a lot of the airports were at that time. They put them right next to town. They didn't think about combining, but it was pretty visionary of him. But they did find this location out here, and then started growing. And it was Johnson Aviation that was one of the first. They were the ones flying the Maytag Corporation at first, until they got their own flight department and facility.
I remember coming out here, and the big hangar that's out here had Maytag all over it.
Yeah.
And of course, there's no Maytag in Newton anymore. What is in that now? Is that do you have planes stored in there?
So we leased that to Midwest Custom Aerial Applicators, a large organization that has spray outfits, spray companies all over the Midwest. And it was originally Kubel aerial applicators, Kubel spray, and then MCA bought out Kubel, and so they've been a great tenant. They put in a lot of infrastructure down there. They've got some amazing equipment, and good operators.
I have a nephew, and I think I told you, I don't want to go ahead and say his name, but he got his pilot's license, I think maybe a year, possibly a year and a half ago, something like that. And boy, he's been flying around everywhere. He just absolutely loves it. I think he got it from you guys. I think he might have taken some lessons here. You do give flying lessons. Tell us about those.
So we do flying lessons. We can do your private instrument commercial right here at the local airport. I came up the local airport many years ago, and decided this might be kind of a nice career, and ended up becoming a flight instructor and worked my way up through the company. Right now there is a demand for pilots. It's been coming since the 1990s. There was an article written about the shortage of pilots coming. COVID made it worse. A lot of folks got out of aviation, and now there's been a demand for more travel than ever, especially on the corporate level. And so we've seen growth in our company on the corporate level for corporate aircraft, and just the whole industry as a whole. It's never been a better time to learn to fly as a career. But the other side of that too, some people just want to do it for fun. As a hobby, because it is. You take off, and I was up today moving some airplanes around, and it's just a beautiful fall day. It was calm. It's so pretty in Iowa right now to fly over. It's just beautiful this time of year, and it's relaxing and enjoyable.
What's the average cost of getting your basic pilot's license without, I think, what is it called, VFR or something like that? So not with the upgrade, but just your basic.
Yeah, so your private license is right around $10,000 to $11,000, all in.
And now it's pretty expensive to have your own plane, but I understand there are clubs, or there are people who share plane times with and that kind of thing.
Sometimes, there's that. Some people, a lot of people, they get their license and they just wanted to get their license too. And so, and then, well, I'll tell you, we have 23 airplanes out here, and I'm going to guess, just off the top of my head, probably 17 of them were people that we trained to fly, and then sold them an airplane.
Oh, really?
And put them in there, or they bought an airplane, we trained them to fly, or we trained them to fly, they bought their own airplane. We didn't necessarily sell them an airplane, but so every one of the hangars out here almost has somebody that we trained and put them in that hangar.
And you do a lot of charter flights. Whenever I see you at Rotary, you've been point A to point B to C, D, all over the country.
So we manage something that has developed over the last 5-6 years has been aircraft management. And so what we realized is that we offer a very ease of ownership solution for some people that might want to get into aviation. So general aviation. We manage 8 corporate aircraft, a Citation CJ3 jet, and then 7 of these PC-12s. They're a large turboprop, very capable airplane, pressurized and whatnot. A couple of them are for charter as well, but majority of our work is for the owners. And it's kind of a fun business in that our customers are folks that when we have a conversation with them, they are somebody who's looking to buy an airplane. and they've done very well with their business or growing and whatnot.
Mhm.
And so it's an easy business to be in, to go to talk to somebody and sell an airplane.
Sure.
Because it's a happy conversation. It's a fun conversation. They're excited about it, and whether it be
Sounds
at the
like it.
private level or at the corporate level. So a lot of our trips, we literally right now, our company, we have an airplane in Tampa. We
Mhm.
have, I think, one out in Bozeman. We had one just come back from Wichita. We got
Wow.
another one right now in Wisconsin. I go to Fort Wayne later on this week. We have a trip to Naples next week. Portland, Southern Florida, you name it. New York the other day. Canada. We had a couple runs back and forth to Canada.
You know, it sounds like a fun job. I mean, I know that there's some labor-intensive times that you have at the airport, especially on those race weekends.
Yeah.
But that's why I got into radio, because I thought it'd be a fun job.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I wanted to do it even as a kid, because as a child, I recognized that a lot of people just went and did their jobs to be able to put food on the table and get their bills paid.
Yeah.
But your job sounds, especially if you like to travel and you like to see different things from the air, it sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And our pilots they enjoy, they want to have a work-life balance. That's a big thing. So our pilots enjoy that, but then they also get to, I won't tell you who, but that one of our pilots just out swimming with the manatees yesterday. On the trip. So I literally got some pictures back.
Yeah.
This gentleman went out and was swimming with manatees.
I got to ask you, do you have such a thing as a lottery fantasy? Like, if you won a big lottery jackpot, what you would do? Because I have a lottery fantasy. I'm going to share with you, and then you could tell me if yours.
All right.
Mine is, I'm a big Kansas City Chiefs fan.
Okay.
Love the Chiefs.
Yeah.
That you fly me down to Kansas City or wherever they're playing.
Yeah.
You fly me down there. I get a suite, and we can hang out in the suite next to wherever Taylor Swift is.
Okay.
And have fun and fly back and forth with that. I'm just thinking that would be a blast. That would be a dream come true. Now, do you have a lottery fantasy?
Do I have a lottery fantasy? I have never thought about that. I don't think I've ever thought.
And I rarely play the lottery. I'm like a lot of people. If the jackpot gets way high, I'll spend $10-$20 and see what happens.
Yours involves an airplane. Mine might involve a boat.
Oh, that's right.
It really would. Yeah, it might be something I could stay on. A yacht? Just travel. Yeah, big.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a guy. So on YouTube, follow that. There's a gentleman on YouTube, Venture. He sounds like Kane, the actor Kane. Makes these wonderful videos of Alaska and all his tours and his boat Venture.
Oh wow!
And Tony Fleming, I think it is Fleming Yachts.
Okay,
he's a maker of Fleming Yachts.
Wow!
And this guy's on Alaska cruise all the time, and it's his own boat. And it's just kind of cool. When he goes to Europe, he goes all over. But anyway, that might be it, because the flying thing. Yeah, maybe I'd have to have a jet fly me to somewhere, and then I'll hop on that boat and cruise around a little bit. Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm gonna start playing the lottery. I guess I never thought about it. I don't play money comes too hard, so it's hard to give it up like that.
I
play lottery.
Understand. Were you a child when you first became fascinated with aviation?
I think I wanted to in high school. It was in the 90s. I looked into doing the military route a little bit. I was worried they were going to cut my hair. So I didn't, no. I decided that might not be for me necessarily. So I was working at the local airport, and the opportunities in aviation at that time for the military weren't nothing. I couldn't really be guaranteed to fly, I don't think. That's what I felt anyway at the time. So I thought at the local airport, started working my way up and decided this might make a pretty good job. And so mom actually cut out a learn to fly lesson, an ad for me, and they were $15. So I went out there and did my introductory flight lesson for $15.
Was this in Marshalltown?
This was in Marshalltown.
I was going to say, you're from Marshalltown.
Marshalltown.
And your partner does the Marshalltown airport.
Exactly. Steve Albrecht from Newton.
He's from Newton.
He's from Newton. Yeah. He does Marshalltown. I'm Marshalltown to Newton. I tease it might be our childhood said, don't put us back in our hometown. But so mom cut out a introductory flight lesson and went out there to the airport, was taking lessons one day, and then had the opportunity to the lineman had quit, and Bill Smothers, who was the owner at the time, along with Earl Johnson, looked at me and said, "You reliable?" I said, "I think so." And he goes, "You want a job?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And so I started working the line, working my way up. Bill gave me a great opportunity to work up in the company, and then to buy into a company. I was 20 years old giving flight instruction.
Wow.
And then at 21, 22, I was flying I started pretty young, obviously, but the opportunity I had to move up in the company was great. And at 22, 23 years old, I could fly a roughly $1 million turboprop, but I couldn't run a car.
Oh,
I wasn't old enough.
wow.
So, and then the opportunity came around to, as flight instructor here in Newton and Marshalltown. In 1999, I came down here, and Lisa had started working for the company around about the same time. We were dating and engaged, and then she took a job at the company as well. And so I had the opportunity to start buying in. And it was a really, Earl had been bought out by that time, and Bill gave me the opportunity, and a great opportunity, to buy into a company that had a good track record, had to come from that knowledge base into this industry was very beneficial. To take a lot of those lessons that him and Earl had learned over the years and not make the same mistakes, and then build on that. And then in 2009, took on Steve Albrecht as a partner. He had been working for the company since about 2000 or so, working his way up too, and took him on. And then Steve has done a lot of great things with the aircraft management side, and he's a little younger than me, and the technology that he can put into everything is great, and has really grown the company that way too.
And I don't know if you have an answer for this next question, but how do you deal with white knuckle flyers? Because my mom, God rest her soul, we had a good friend over in Missouri Valley. I don't know if you know where that is, way over in western Iowa, out by Council Bluffs. His name was John Watson, and he's kind of famous in Missouri Valley because he was a man about town, and he was a fire chief one time, but he had a plane, and he'd been in World War II and was flying in World War II, and he took me up. And I always loved going up in the plane with him. I was fascinated by it. I thought it was fantastic. And he brought my mom up in the plane once, and got up in the air, and she said, put me back down. And he said, Betty, we need to get up before we can go down.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? I'm sure there are people who are frightened about flying, but it's actually pretty darn safe.
It's extremely safe. How you interact with the customers at the corporate level anyway is important. The battle between the doors is what I call it. It's it's not a battle, but it's a impression that those people are going to get from you, how you handle them. So we are, if you will, as a corporate pilot, as a charter pilot, I call it a glorified limo driver.
Oh.
So it's very important that we have a rapport with those customers, and you have to love service that way, and love taking care of these people. And once you are personal with them, and that immediately releases them, because they know who you are, and they trust you. So you build that trust with them. And I can't, it's going to be a little bumpy. We can tell them, hey, we have all this equipment on the airplane. We're always going to be safe, but I can't always make it completely smooth. We have downloadable weather. We have live radar. We got all kinds of stuff in this airplane. I don't want to go through anything you don't want to go through.
There's air pockets and things like that.
Yeah.
And I know that pilots are concerned about that, because it used to be, I don't know whether they do this on airlines anymore, you could put headphones on, and then you could dial up listening to your pilot and air traffic control going back and forth. And I could hear the pilots talking to other pilots who were ahead of them, seeing what kind of air they had.
Yeah. So they're constantly, when we're up there flying, the airlines and whatnot are constantly saying, what's the ride like? And air traffic control is giving it back, because they're going to turn the seatbelt sign on or turn it off. And we have pretty good weather as well that shows up that says here, there's turbulence here, there's expected turbulence. We can kind of plan around that. The airliners, when we're in the corporate jet, we're way up, we're 43, 45,000 feet. We're above a lot of weather.
Yeah. You fly at a different elevation or altitude than what commercial airlines
typically
fly, right?
Typically, yeah. We're up at it's on. Very rarely do we not clear 40,000 feet when we're going somewhere, and that kind of puts you above most of the weather, not all of it. And now you still got to come down through it, but we're above a lot of the thunderstorms, and where a lot of people are deviating and whatnot, we're going over the top of. And then the thing about us too is we can say, hey, you know what, guys, we're going to delay an hour. We're just going to wait an hour. Don't show up at the airport for an hour. And then we'll leave, and all the storms are going to be gone,
right?
Because it's on their schedule.
You just have to be patient.
Yeah, we have a lot more flexibility that way too. If, hey, you know what, I know you want to leave at noon, but the weather looks like we should probably hurry back. Let's leave at 11. Versus the airlines, it's, well, we tried to leave at noon, but you're going to cancel the whole trip. Well, let's leave a little early. So when you have your own airplane, you have your own access to that. That helps with the schedule.
Do you have to do a flight plan before every flight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And now, does that go to air traffic control, or they see where you're going to go? How does that work?
So I'll give you an example. When we do a fair amount of trips down to southern Florida. It's very popular. Florida airspace is extremely busy, both sides of the coast coming down from New York area, and then through the Midwest, it all gets funneled down the West Coast. We'll file those flight plans, and they go into like several days early, and they will go into an air traffic control center for planning purposes, and they'll see we're coming, and they'll kind of reserve that spot. So a little secret is that if you file early, you're more likely to not get delayed. And so we file it right away. But we always file a flight plan, and then it helps if you know the routing as well. But the technology that's on our phone that gives us what was the last route filed, so you've got a preferred route. And we go to a lot of the same places down in Florida, so we know the route. But if you didn't, your phone would tell you this is what they want. Go ahead and hit that button, and that's the route I'll put in there.
I see.
So the technology now has helped out a lot with that. But there will be, Florida, the busy times, we can get some pretty decent delays, and it's just traffic. Just not enough space for everybody.
And speaking of technology, I think we were talking at Rotary once. When I would go up in the plane with John Watson, we would fly over Neola, and he'd say, "That's an Omni station down there.
Sure.
That'll give me the direction."
Yeah.
But that's kind of outdated now, isn't it?
Well, about everything we do now is GPS. Not that those aren't good backups, and we do use them. We practice with them. We take check rides.
And for those laymen who don't know, what was an Omni station?
So it's a very high frequency Omni bearing range. I believe VOR is what it's called. And so that would spit out like spokes on a wheel, all these radials that you could track to and from. And for Newton, it's up by Baxter. It looks like a missile coming out of the ground. Sure. It's a white top there. And the first approach here at Newton, Iowa was written by Max J. When I was a young flight instructor, I was giving Max he had been retired from Maytag already. He was the first pilot.
He was the pilot. I remember hearing his name.
Yeah, he was first chief pilot of Maytag. And so he'd retired. He said, I want to get current again and do my biannual flight review. So I went, I flew with him, and young flight instructor and whatever. And we went out and we were going to shoot an approach. And I hand him the approach, and he just hardly looks at it. He just goes out to the VOR, and he goes out and he does this. I hadn't seen it before, but he does a 90, turns 90 to the left, 270 to the right. And he's right down the approach is perfectly right on altitude. And I'm like, he goes, you hadn't seen that before, have you? And I said, no, we're supposed to go out and turn 45 and turn around and time it and all this other stuff. I'd never seen anybody turn around like that on the radials, on those spokes. And we're coming in. He says, well, I wrote that approach.
Really?
That Newton VOR was there for Des Moines arrivals. And he says, we're right here. He goes, I went up there, told him one day, here, this works. And we had our first approach.
Wow. How about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. But that was just, meeting Max for the first time.
Ethan, I could talk to you for hours about this. You have a very fascinating job. And as I said in Rotary, and I want to give you and Lisa and your crew here lots of props. No pun intended.
Yeah.
Lots of kudos for what you guys do, especially on the race weekends, but also running the airport and all the things you do here. And
Thank you.
And I also want to let you put in a plug. If people want to take flying lessons or get a charter flight or something, how can they contact you?
Yeah, so the phone number is best, 792-1292. It's a great opportunity for anybody looking as a career. It's great. We appreciate representing Newton. Newton has always supported the airport. They realize that this is something that benefits everybody in town. This is a business tool. It's a great place if you want to just enjoy an airplane. It's an awesome facility if you just for pleasure. But then a big portion of what we do is promote the business in town and help the economic development of town.
Yes.
With people coming and going and whatnot. When those Maytag jets took off, everybody went, go get them. They're going to go get more business. That's what they knew was going on. And same to today, the airplanes coming in and out of here are, majority business ventures in town, looking to create new business, looking for new customers, whatnot. So it's an honor and a pleasure to represent Newton. It really is.
It's great to have a fantastic airport like this that you and Lisa run and your whole crew.
Yeah. So, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Our conversation today on Out and About with Jamie Grout has been Ethan Naselrode, who is the president of Johnson Aviation Incorporated and also Midland Aircraft Sales and Service. We're with Dana from Newton Des Moines East KOA. And Dana, I understand you have a new service you're offering.
Yes, we do, Jamie. We are introducing our new Newton KOA handyman service is one of the services that we're adding. We have workers that have worked at our camp every season, and they would like to work for us through the winter. So we came up with they came up with our Newton KOA handyman service, where they're willing to come to your home, clean out your garage, clean any part of your home that needs cleaning, or your yard, take trash to the dump, do some lawn care and cleanup, basic home repairs, excluding electrical and mechanical stuff that requires a licensed person. We don't do that, but they'll also hang your holiday lights and put up Halloween decorations. And we can also do auto detailing. One of the guys that we have does auto detailing. And even one of our guys is a seamstress. He's great at sewing. So
Wow.
If you need anything sewn, our Clarence can take care of that for you as well.
That's great, man. They sound like a jack of all trades.
That's right.
And master of all, I'm sure.
Exactly. We have Moses, who is great at tree work and brush work, so he can take down smaller trees. If it requires a lift, he'll let you know what he can and can't do on the tree end of things. And then Clarence, of course, he's a well-rounded, and Jeff does the auto detailing, and so does Clarence. We call it from mess to masterpiece. We can make it happen.
Well, that sounds fantastic. Yeah, you have a lot of stuff going on there, and some people who can do things. And you, I think, had mentioned to me before about Christmas lights. If you're a person that doesn't want to get up on the ladder and whatnot, and worry about heights and things like that, but yet want to be very festive for Christmas, the handyman service will take care of that for you too, right?
It's perfect for that. For example, my husband just rolls his eyes when I say we should put Christmas lights up this year, because that is not something that he relishes doing. And but I like having Christmas lights up. So for our reasonable rates, it's a great deal to have our guys come out and put your Christmas lights up.
All right, fantastic. Anything else you want to add?
No, most of the work can be done on Wednesdays or Thursdays, so we can schedule it. We do have a 2-hour minimum for 2 guys required, and we are discounting our rate for our first 10 jobs that we take. So if you're hearing about this and you need your garage cleaned out so you can park your car in the garage this winter, please give us a call at 641-792-2428.
Give us that number one more time.
641-792-2428.
Thanks, Dana. The Out and About with Jamie Grout podcast, also sponsored by Free Classified Weekly. Check out Free Classified Weekly. They're all over the place. I picked one up at April's Diner here the other day, and they just joined the Newton Chamber of Commerce. I know the Commerce is thrilled to have them as a member, so check them out, Free Classified Weekly. Also, Ryan's Tire and Auto on First Avenue in Newton. They have these free koozies they are giving away. Stop by and grab one at Ryan's Tire and Auto. And it's their way of thanking the community for your continued support. They have the best and most loyal friends and customers, and they have prices you can afford and quality you can trust and service you deserve at Ryan's Tire and Auto, First Avenue in Newton. Also, Jersey Freeze. Hey, great news from Lynn and the gang at Jersey Freeze. The barricades on Highway 14 are gone. Now Newton Jersey Freeze fans have a nice smooth ride to Monroe. Better make the trip and check out the road. The first time since April 8th that the road has been totally open, so head on over to Jersey Freeze in Monroe, right there, on Highway 14. And also Newton Clinic, and they want you to know that regarding their new portal, Newton Clinic friends, if you are wanting portal access, they ask that you kindly text or call the clinic at 641-792-2112 to update your email address in their files. At that point, their professional staff can send you a link to complete your new portal registration. They apologize for the error. However, the email address did not populate upon conversion, and they say thank you for your patience at Newton Clinic. Again, give them a call at 641-792-2112. Until next time, Grout is out. See ya!